Guys, welcome back. We had a nice green market today. We love to see it, but I want to talk to you guys about MVMD today because first of all, we had a big news release today talking about all kind of the things that they're working on right now, or at least most of them, and just kind of discussing what their next steps are, etc. So we're going to go through that. But before we do, I just want to talk to you guys about why I'm actually so bullish on MVMD. And this is why. Yes, they're really a pharma play, but they're not producing any drugs. Most other pharma plays, right, and pretty much any other pharma play, they produce their own drugs. It takes a while to go to market. It takes a while for clinical trials, etc. All that takes a lot of time. MVMD in this regard is completely different because they are focusing on taking existing drugs that are already in the market, that are already doing well, or whatever they're doing, and making them better, right? And that's really why MVMD, in my opinion, is such a good company, because they take drugs, they make them more efficient and more effective, right? And that leads partners to want to get in on that because their drugs will then be more efficient, more effective, more cost effective, etc. right? And that's kind of where the money lies for MVMD. And that's also part of the reason why it's so hard to kind of give an accurate price target for MVMD, because they're in so many different lanes, but we don't know what their license agreements are going to look like. We don't know how they're looking to sell their technology, or sell really their better drugs. Are they just going for a license agreement, or what are they doing, right? And so we've talked about before how it really also depends on kind of what problem they're solving, but right now they're really solving some big problems. They're in oncology, aka cancer research, right? They're looking to kind of stop outbreaks of diseases, including COVID, kind of, although again, that's not really one of their main things they're working on. They're looking to make vaccines last and take them out of the cold chain, right? These are huge problems that are looking to be solved, and they're using already existing drugs. And because of that, it doesn't put them in competition with any other of these bigger companies. Let's say a big pharma company, right? It actually brings them in kind of a mutual agreement with them, because they need these partners in order to take their drugs, make them more effective, make them repatentable, and make them just better, basically, in every way, even if the cost is a little bit higher. And that's what Dennis says in one of his latest AMAs, and actually the AMA part 2, which I highly recommend you guys watch. I have it up right here, just so you guys can see what it's called. Mountain Valley MD AMA Continued Part 2. Highly suggest you watch that. It's a great little snippet. Dennis does talk about quite a bit. He talks about some potential, partners in the cannabis space and every other space, and just goes through, where they're looking to go as a company, kind of similar to what they did with the first one, just answering some questions there. So do check that out. Anyways, in there, he talks about how they're not in competition with any of these other companies, any pharma companies, etc. They're actually partnered with them in order to make those drugs more effective, right? And so it really pushes MVMD forward, rather than being in competition with a huge pharma company that they're never going to outmatch. They're never going to become a company that way, because they're just too small, and these big pharma companies would have the capital to just take them out right away. And so being able to have a mutual benefit there of these companies just means MVMD is going to grow that much faster. Now, on top of that, right, their timeline is so much quicker. They don't develop any drugs, right? They take existing drugs and make them better. Again, now what does that mean? It means that their timeline for making these drugs better isn't 2 to 10 years. It's 12 to 24 months. Right? In that sense, commercialization is much faster. Clinical trials are much faster because they can be sped up, and all of that. And on top of that, it also means that costs are going to be a lot lower, because the timeline isn't as long. They can get to market quicker. They can commercialize faster. They can make revenues faster. And they can do it more effectively. That's not only MVMD that's going to be able to do that, but it's also their partner that's going to be able to do that, whatever company that might be. And those are kind of the reasons why I am so bullish. But let's go into the news release here, because there's a lot of things in here that that I think are important to mention, although we already know about, quite a few we already know about, but there's some that were mentioned in that second AMA, which you guys should watch, and it kind of reiterated in this news release as well here. So let's go through it. Starting off, let's just read the title so you guys know what this is about. Mountain Valley MD provides update on key strategic initiatives. Patent award, FDA collaborative research agreement, cold chain, dose sparing, husbandry, oncology, tuberculosis, and cannabis. These are all industries that they're currently in. Whether or not they're working with a partner right now in these spaces, they're working with partners in some of these spaces, perhaps not all of them, but for a fact, I know that they're working with a partner in the cold chain aspect, because their desiccated liposome idea was taken from a pharma partner, because that's what they would want to see if they would adopt this technology. They do have a partner in the cannabis space, and we'll see that once later on in this news release as well, because they talk about it, and it seems like it might be a pretty big partner from the wording there. So we're going to go through that as well. GMP production. Anyways, let's just get into this here first, right? So we have the patent for Quicksol, and this is basically their Ivectisol, their Selectisol, right? And all these things. Selectisol, they're working on tuberculosis there. Ivectisol, we know, is for husbandry animals, and human trials in order to, for or against really viruses, against COVID, etc. So we see here the United States Patent Trademark Office has approved the company's patent filing related to water dissolvable macrocyclic lactones, essentially Ivectisol, Selectisol, and whatever other kind of macrocyclic lactones kind of they're able to solubilize here are just added to the list. It's just their solubility technology through Quicksol itself there, right? And from that, they make all these other water dissolvable macrocyclic lactones, right? Moving forward here with this, I also see kind of near-term revenues there in Bangladesh, etc. Another thing Dennis mentioned in his part 2 AMA there, where he really says, yeah, the results in Bangladesh are going to be great. Good news for MVMD, but it's really taking the results that we see in Bangladesh worldwide and kind of starting a global conversation, he says, with Ivectisol, because of how good the trial results were in Bangladesh, assuming they're good when we get that information, right? But in the next few months, we're going to see the partners they have in Bangladesh, and we're going to realize some revenues there, which is going to be great for MVMD. All right, GMP production of Ivectisol. This is fantastic. Again, Dennis talks about this as well in this part 2 AMA. He talks about how the wafer that they're making, right, is very inexpensive, which is part of their desiccated liposome technology. And they can essentially, they have machinery in there right now, which is about $20,000 at cost. And they can produce over 1 million of these little wafers every single day. So you can just kind of see the scale that you can actually get to, even just with, this technology here, with the desiccated liposome technology there, right? But it's not only for that. Again, we see here positive results from the initial manufacturing assessment of Ivectisol. And that's what we see here. The company, this confirms the company's ability to supply the GMP production quantities necessary for planned oncology and COVID-19 phased human trials, and supporting the 505(b)(2) pathway application with the FDA. Again, they're ready for this right now, right? We're going to be moving into this soon. GMP production is currently underway. Dennis again mentions this in this continued AMA there. So again, we're going to be seeing things here happening very soon. And yes, we don't really have anything yet too substantial, but it's coming, guys. I really, really think it's coming. And I could be wrong, but again, at the price that we're at right now, I don't see us going much lower. We are hovering at around that 0.43 to 0.45-ish level right now for the past few weeks. We'll see what happens, but if we continue to hover at this level, I don't really see us going any lower. We'll see. We'll save the technical analysis for another video though. Really, I just want to go through this news release today. Moving on to cold chain, again, we know about their 2-year collaborative research agreement. They are pleased to formally announce that they've entered into this now. Great things there. We know what they're doing. We know they've received the results. So we've talked about this. We know they're doing it with the IPV. But this last point here is quite interesting, because it says the company will now proceed with coordinating a detailed review session with the FDA, and they will collaborate on the next steps to finalize the cold chain research in order to inform the planned commercialization pathway. Meaning they are planning out a commercialization pathway right now. They're not there yet, but again, it's in the works right now with the FDA. The results of testing completed to date will be shared after the review session in coordination with the FDA. So we will get these results in the next few weeks here. Again, once they've kind of had the review session, they've planned a commercialization pathway, etc. And we're going to get all this news coming soon. And all of that, I think, is really going to push up our share price here, especially if it's good results, which obviously we know it is because of this 2-year research or collaborative research agreement, right? So again, great things happening in the cold chain space there that they're working in. Dose-sparing adjuvant, again, this is one of those avenues that could be big in many, many different spaces, right? Because really just means you have to use less of each drug, right? Because it's dose-sparing. Every dose uses less and therefore is more sparing, right? And that's kind of what all this is about. Again, they have the novel aluminum nanoparticle adjuvant. First of all, novel and therefore patentable. They have already patented this technology as well. So amazing news. Again, they say, MVMD says, Mike kind of says, alludes to that this is kind of a better adjuvant than anyone other out there. And if that's true, well, then obviously this is going to be very, very big for them as well moving forward. They should see some big partnerships in that space there too. Because remember, this even works with vaccines, right? And that's mostly where adjuvants are used. Is in that vaccine field. So even for COVID, it'd be quite easy for any of the companies that are currently making a COVID vaccine to use their dose-sparing adjuvant if it's more effective than the other ones. Again, good things happening here. We'll see news there. Probably a little bit longer than what we'll see, news on ivectisol from there and the trials in Bangladesh, etc. But again, it's also coming, and that's why this is a long-term hold for me. I think they are going to be in a lot of different kind of lanes and a lot of different avenues and a lot of different industries here in the pharma space and outside of that pharma space, right? Husbandry Animals, we know they're working on that for ivectisol right now as well. This third point, though, we know about the other ones here, but this third point, the poultry trials were the first to be completed of the broader husbandry group, and the company has received indication from the quality control lead that the trials were successful. The company is anticipating the formal trial report on poultry shortly. So we will get this news shortly, apparently, which, I don't know the timeline on that, but I'm guessing not longer than 2 weeks. We know the trials were successful already. To what point, we'll find out soon enough. But again, that's going to be some big news coming in again, which should again push up our share price. But again, I'm not really worried about the short-term share price, right? I'm worried about the long-term share price. And for me, I see MVMD being again in so many different lanes, in so many different places that they're just going to become a big company licensing out their technology here if it's all as effective as they say it is. And it's proving to be. We can see trials were successful. We know FDA trials were successful. We know the dose sparing. We don't know everything about the dose sparing yet, but we know, for a start that it works. And we're getting again here to the ivectisol trials, which will likely be successful here, and moving into human trials from there, right, as well. So great things there. And remember too, eventually MVMD wants to use ivermectin to be able to treat these viruses. I believe I mentioned that earlier in this video, but just to reiterate, right? And so from that, it may make vaccines in certain respects obsolete, but I don't want to really use that word because vaccines will obviously never be obsolete in that sense. But anyways, moving on, oncology. We're seeing them already file a patent for injecting a tumor essentially with ivectisol, right? In order to make current cancer drugs more efficient. Again, we're getting back to that more efficiency in other drugs, right? Now, in this case, it's a little bit different because they're taking their ivectisol, injecting it in tumors, and from that, other cancer drugs are more effective against those tumors, right? That's kind of the idea here. Again, this third point is something very, very good. The company has been advised that the CRO engaged to perform the preclinical trials has successfully implanted melanoma tumor cells with no toxicity of the initial treatment. Now, we're not sure the effectiveness that we're going to see from injecting ivectosol into tumors, but what we know is that there's no toxicity that's coming, so there's no adverse effects that we're going to see from this, except for on the positive side, because I believe Mike said in one of the interviews with him as well that they're looking to kind of increase successive cancer drugs by another 60 to 80% here. That's kind of their goal with this oncology research stuff and with their ivectosol in that cancer research space. The company plans to move directly into human phase trials if current preclinical trials are successful. So once we see these preclinical trials directly into clinical trials, that is going to be huge for MVMD, because as we know, any kind of company that has successful trials in cancer, their price instantly jumps up. Thinking back to Greenwich Life Sciences, right? Look at what they are right now. So could be potentially big things here for oncology as well. Now, TB research, again, we're seeing moves here. Now what's nice is selamectin again has never been able to be solubilized. Now it has been with Quicksol. Again, novel, patented, right? 1.5% selectosol, and it affects a lot of people, roughly 25% of the population. So again, if they find a partner here, this is going to be big for them. Now, moving on to cannabis, finally, and for the TB research here and selectosol, this is going to be a little ways down the road, in my opinion, for compared to ivectosol, compared to the oncology research they're doing. I think these are going to come out pretty soon here. Again, FDA as well, right, for cold chain there. So those are going to be more nearer term here. And cannabis, another nearer term play here. The company is currently working through CBD and THC product formulations for a North American cannabis company, not a Canadian company, not a US company, a North American cannabis company. So these guys aren't small, right? And again, this is going to lead to good revenues here moving forward. Dennis talks about the cannabis space quite a bit, and nobody really listens to him in the cannabis space, but I think they are going to see some near-term revenues here, again, upon successful acceptance of the product formulations. So we'll see good news there too. And these are a lot of the things they're working on right now. And again, we should be seeing news on a lot of these things soon. So good things to come, in my opinion here. I would suggest at this price is a good spot to buy. We do seem to be leveling out at around that 0.44 level. We could drop, we could go up, but I think in the long term, this stock is going to make sense for you guys to buy now. That's what I'm doing anyways. You guys can make your own decisions. Obviously, again, I'm just a guy on YouTube, but I'm putting my money into the stocks that I tell you guys about, and this is one of them. This is my largest holding right now, and will continue to be so, and hopefully, and I really do think that we will see some moves soon. So that's going to do it for the video today. Yes, it was a long one, but I hope you guys liked it. A little update on MVMD. Hadn't done one in a little while here, and other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you guys in the next video.